Here's the big moment. Put this on this, put it into here. All right, welcome back, Car Cane Rehab. Hi Ash. Last time we took a ton of parts off of this. But the part that we were waiting for is this, and this has shown up. What we have here is a Jeep NSG 370. Yeah.
Out of a TJ trans.
What she said. Any of you Jeep guys know that this is not a loved transmission in the Jeep world. It's not like the AX15 or anything else. It's known for having some problems. One of the biggest ones is popping out of gear. One of the things that, after doing some research, everyone said to make sure to use Pennzoil Synchro Mesh. And our friends from Summit sent us over a B&M shifter. It's a short shifter, which we're gonna need because I think in full throw on this, it may actually end up in the dash. So we'll have to see where that all sits and where that lands. So there it is, pretty simple. Looks pretty much like the stock one. Gives a shorter shift and like a more confident shift, which is one of the big problems that everyone complains about this, is that they shift into gear and it feels like it's not really in sixth gear. There's some issues with sixth and reverse, and also popping out of first gear. We'll put that in, hopefully that works. We're also gonna drain the fluid. So right now, we got a lot to do. If you're watching this, it is Saturday before SEMO. So the goal is to get it running. And that's a lot to do in very little time, which is less than a week. The goal will be right now, we're gonna step by step. First up, make these two together, put the shifter in, then we're gonna mount it into here. I need to fab up a mount for the transmission, so we're gonna have to do that. And then once we get the trans in the right place, we can then lower the engine in, figure out where that's gonna sit, cut out the old mounts. We're gonna drain and refill. I'm gonna put the Axis Industries adapter on the LT230. Ashley's gonna do the shifter. Boom, montage. All right, so Ashley got this in lickety split. I drained this. Now it's time to throw the Axis adapter on. So you can see it mocked up real quickly. Axis made this, which will adapt the LT230 over to the Jeep Trans, and it even allows you to clock it. So we're gonna start it at 0. Hopefully that's the right position for it. But if needed, we could clock the transmission a little bit and then put that together. So the transfer case adapter is mounted up. Simply mounts to the casing. These mount to that. And we gotta put this in here. Hopefully this fits. Boom. It's a little confusing. That fun moment when you realize because you didn't have any directions, you did it wrong. I mean, looking at it now, it was totally my fault because I should have thought about it before I put it together, but I didn't. So now we get to rewind and put it back together again.
Yeah, nice work.
All right, another day and a whole lot more to do. So as you can see, pulled the motor back out. What we're gonna do right now is Ashley's gonna get the motor equipped with our new flywheel adapter and our bell housing adapter.
And then the remote oil filter has to come off. This is just stored here for shipping.
Yep.
So this will come off and mount somewhere else on the chassis.
And we're gonna have to take a look at it. We may actually need to remove a few other things to get it to go smoothly in. Like we might wanna just remove the turbo or at least the emission style exhaust flange off of here just to get it in. I'm gonna start figuring out how to get this properly sorted. So the goal is we get this positioned, build a mount for this, and then mount the motor to this, and then build mounts for the motor, because I want to put this back in the factory location. So we'll start from here and we'll work forward to the front of the car. truck. Alright, so I got the transmission and the transfer case lined up the way I want it. This is all in here, kind of positioned. Here's the factory Jeep mount, and it looks pretty good. It's about right in the right place. Coming out of the firewall this is the original factory Land Rover mount. That's mounted in. You basically got to build a new mount that's going to replace this and go across through here. What the idea is that the first thing to do is to locate the rear transfer case. And once we do that, we can start kind of building forward. So get this mount done first. Once this is in, mount the engine to the transmission, and then actually put the motor mounts in and all of that. I obviously want to keep the transfer case in the stock position, and then we'll just build forward from there. So now it's time to fab up a mount. And lucky for me, my good friend, Rob Parsons, AKA Chair Slayer, AKA Chris Slayer, is back in California.
Yeah, boy.
So he came by to give me a hand, weld this up, because my welds kind of suck. I need a little more seat time. Rob's a bloody professional, or a bloody unprofessional.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that you're just sitting here with extension cords.
This year we're gonna turn myself into a professional here, but I don't know. I got all these cords and I'm trying to figure out how to use this new plasma table that they got.
Rob's been looking for a reason to get the JD squared up plasma up and running, so.
Yeah, thanks guys. I'm glad we got this here so I don't have to use a drill anymore.
All right, so as expected, Ashley finished her job before I finished mine. Well, kind of. I needed Rob's help, so.
Flex plate's on, the adapter is on for the Jeep transmission bell housing. The crank adapter is on.
Now time for a clutch that we got from Spec. So this is it's a Jeep TJ clutch, so it uses all the Jeep stuff, including the flywheel. That all stays the same. Because this piece now just essentially makes it from this point forward, it's a Jeep. Or I should say this point backwards, it's a Jeep. What else do you gotta do?
Motor mounts.
And then run the serpentine belt, and then maybe just pop the canister off, just for ease of getting it in the engine bay, and then that part's ready to go. Just made that plate that easy. Well, that's it. We got a trans mount done, which might not seem like a lot, but it's kind of the thing that makes it possible for us to do everything else. I don't know, once again, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We gotta stop making a habit of this, guys. 2 a.m. crew. So everyone always wonders why no one's here to help me. It's because it's 2 o'clock in the morning, everyone's home sleeping. Took us a few hours to get the trans mount figured out. A lot of the reason is because we had to do a lot of measurement, figure out exactly where we want the trans to sit, where we want the transfer case to sit. And now, tomorrow, put the motor in.
When?
Anyway, on to the next day.
Heyo.
New day, new location. So since we're gonna have to start mocking things up on the truck and get the engine in position, I didn't want to have to take it on and off the lift for the other guys working, so moved it back to where we started. As you can see, I got the transmission in. We got the mount in the other night, Rob and I put together. Last night was great. Rob and Ashley and I all worked together and we got a ton done, but I'm back by myself today. Here we go. I'm gonna try to get as much done as possible. I gotta cut out the factory mounts and start mocking those up. Something else you'll notice is I removed the steering rack. Cut to a quick time lapse of that. Basically, the problem is that the oil cooler for the Cummins engine sits right about here, and the steering rack also set right about there. The fix seems to be to run a right-hand drive steering rack, which would normally sit over here and sit inboard, and actually have it now sit outboard. So I'm gonna have to cut out some of the fender liner, mount it over there, and then figure out how to mount the track bars. But all of that I'm gonna figure out after I get the engine in the car and I get the engine running. Because that way at least the car is running. If I have to steer it by hand, I can still drive it onto the SEMA floor. That kind of counts. I'll just get a Bluetooth steering rack. So I forgot to wear long sleeves today, and I got a lot of grinding to do, which hurts because it sparks. So I'm gonna have to make some sleeves. We never made some out of socks. Here we go. All right, man, cutting motor mounts out and stuff like that always takes way longer than you think, but there they are. It's nice and clean. I'm gonna clean them up a little bit more once I know where the new motor mounts go, and then weld those in and should be ready to go. Next up should be lowering the engine, but I just realized I forgot to order an intercooler, so I'm gonna measure the intercooler real quick. I also need to remove a few other things, like those lines, which is the cooling lines for the R2.8 transmission, which don't work with the NSG transmission. I'm gonna just do that. It's like 2:30 in the morning, so I might just call it a night, because honestly, lowering the engine in right now is the beginning of a lot more stuff. Tomorrow's another day. All right, here's the big moment. Put this on this, put it into here. It's gonna happen right now. It's taken a couple weeks to get here, but this is the big moment. Line it up, get those mounts figured out where they need to go, and that should be the tipping point or over the hump to getting this thing actually running, or at least I hope. Hope this isn't the beginning of where all the problems start. All right.
It's in. Kind of.
It's in, kind of, as Ashley said. Thanks to Dan helping us out, and Casey as well. It turned out it was more than a two-person job to get it in, just to get everything lined up. There it is. It looks like it fits actually pretty nicely where it currently is sitting, which I'm excited about. We're gonna notch up those mounts that we got from our friends at Axis. They look like this. They sent them with some guide marks. Looks like we may have to fab them up a little bit differently than the way they sit in the Defender. It looks like this motor sits a little bit higher than it might do in the way that those guys have it set up. I also know that they set the motors back a lot more in a Defender to clear the steering box. Anyway, that's it for this episode, because it's got to get to the editor and they got to make it so you guys can watch it. But we're gonna keep working on this. Obviously, there's still a lot left to do for SEMA. There's no way in hell we're gonna bring this thing to SEMA if it doesn't run. So we're gonna just keep trying to actually make it run, because don't want to be the guy with the Bluetooth everything. That's it. Do I really have to wrap it? I'm like so tired.
From the depths.
The depth. Yeah, it comes from like below. It's like it's
guttural.
It's testicular. It comes all the way up.
Right.
So. That's it! To everyone else, we'd recommend doing it the other way, but whatever. We like the
Do
past.
as we say, not as we do.
Yeah.